Hello, everybody. This is Swiss. This is a quick introduction to who I am, what I do, what I would like to achieve in Decentraland, where I think this project is going. This is pretty much an interview with myself. As some of you know, I have done a couple of, podcasts slash interview sessions. Well, I have done is maybe a big term. I have tried to do. I have done two sessions. The first session unfortunately failed because the audio quality on the other side was insufficient for to actually publish it. So we went ahead and did the second interview, and this one was actually pretty good. It's currently published on YouTube, and the other two candidates that wanted to participate have not done the interview yet. One might potentially come next week, and the other gentleman has not yet replied. Maybe he has changed his mind, which is okay. I think there will be many opportunities to speak to many interesting people inside Decentraland, but it gives me now an opportunity to share a little bit of what I think about the whole situation in Decentraland. And I'm just gonna go freestyle edit since I have this beautiful board created for my setup in Decentraland. I'm just gonna use that as a guide through this introductory session. And I don't think this is going to be a very short session, and I'm unlikely to edit it anymore. I think I'm just gonna start uploading things without a whole lot of editing and repeat recordings, because I think it's just authentic. I think people might actually enjoy having a very natural way of presenting stuff. So let's just roll with it. All right. So I have started in Decentraland in end of March 2019. I have been wondering a little bit about that project for a while, and then I completely lost sight of it. I think I did get to know this whole thing through the crypto space, like many did, I think. And eventually, when I tried to get back into the crypto environment, I kind of stumbled across Mana, and I went to check out the website for the very first time. I kind of knew what was behind it roughly, but I never believed that this is actually going to be an interesting thing. Like, because I mean, what was it? Why didn't I believe in it right from the get-go? I think I just didn't understand what the whole idea was of what the whole advantage was of this whole blockchain environment. I mean, yes, I think we do understand the idea of scarcity and immutability, meaning that you can have you can identify objects, which allows for ownership and scarcity and a limit in supply and so forth. So I think these notions started to become clear to me, and then I didn't make the connection necessarily to how this could be interesting in a world for some reason, because now it seems to be so straightforward. But I think also the whole idea of NFTs wasn't really around. I mean, NFTs, this was still like this non-fungible token. Nobody called it NFTs. This is a relatively new term, like, that everyone is using. But initially, this was like non-fungible token. People could barely pronounce that damn thing. So back in the day, it wasn't that straightforward to make that connection. Nevertheless, once I came to the website, I think for some reason I did sign up, and or at least I visited the world. I don't remember if I signed up right away, but I think it was relatively quick until I have gotten the 200 mana back in the days, and I've registered a name. I think it was, yeah, I mean, I was familiar with crypto. I had MetaMask, so the barrier to entry was still there. I mean, I will not say it wasn't there, because you still had to get mana, and I was not aware of Uniswap back in the days. So I think it might not even have existed. So you had to go to an exchange of some sort. I don't even remember how this all played out. But and then, you know, send this mana back and forward, and it wasn't enough, and I didn't have the money for the fees. But eventually I got it sorted, and I came inside Decentraland. I started walking around, and I remember, I mean, if you think Decentraland is somewhat empty now, it was a lot more empty back in the days. Like when I came in, it was a desert with a couple of MetaZone advertising boards here and there. This is how it looked like. And I walked around and I looked at it, and still I felt like there was a feeling that I felt attracted to it. And I think I left, and then I came back a second time, and then I left for another week or two. It just was kind of this strange, slow approach. And then eventually I came back again, and I think I discovered the Digitables building. I think I discovered the Digitable building, and this was the only build where I said, wow, I mean, if this is user created, then this is really cool, and I want to do something like that too, right? And then I went to check out YouTube, and I checked out the marketplace. I think this is the moment where I started to get really hooked. I think I've seen a video by DCL Blogger on the land valuations, and he's reasoning around that. And immediately my brain kind of like, you know, immediately my brain wanted to participate in the conversation, and I felt like, oh, he's right about this, but this is probably not right. And it's just intellectually also challenged me, and eventually I think I decided that I was going to buy a piece of land, and I was going to try to build something on top of it with that Digitables building in the back of my mind, right? So what happened next? I'm probably getting the exact order wrong, but eventually I bought a piece of land, and I'm wondering if I should actually pull it up. If I would actually pull it up, it could be really interesting, because I think since this is going to be on YouTube, you'll be able to watch it. Let's have a look real quick. So I think the very first land I bought was, I think it was somewhere here. I think it was this corner here. It doesn't actually exist anymore. It looks like it's in a, no, it actually is still existing. It's I think this was right here. So I bought this land on that very corner, and it felt like I definitely wanted to have something that is roadside. I wanted to have a road next to it. There was no way in the world that I could imagine that a parcel would be valuable outside of, you know, outside of the kind of road infrastructure, if you will. And the fact that it was nicely connected on the corner to a whole set of roads really was attractive. I think I paid like 25,000 mana back in the days, and the exchange rate was like 2 cents or 3 cents for a mana, right? I think it was something like that. So a lot, I mean, I think this was really the low for mana back in the days. So I came in just at the right time, because I was coming in, I think I think predominantly in fiat. So for me, it was really important to have that low rate to actually, you know, become part of the marketplace and buying that first land. Long story short, having purchased that land, I eventually decided that I wanted to buy more land. You know, it was somewhat affordable, it felt like, at least. And I bought another land here in this fashion district, somewhere here on the corner. It wasn't directly attached to a street, but it was just on the corner, so it was still good enough for me. It was a little bit more expensive. I think it was maybe this one here somewhere. So this was land number 2. And I think eventually I bought another land right over here next to Dragon City. So I suddenly had 3 pieces of land, and I was starting to experiment with building. And after seeing the Digitables building, the first place I actually went to was some kind of portal where you could download 3D models. And I downloaded a 3D model, and it's a big portal. I think you guys will know it, but I just don't recall the name, but everybody knows it. I downloaded it, I tried to import it into Decentraland, and it was just completely blank and white. And the shape was there, but it wasn't solid. You could walk through it. The proportions were way off, and it was just blank and white, and I couldn't understand what was going on. I had no idea that Blender kind of how it works, and I think by that time I figured out that Blender is a way of actually working with these 3D objects. So I was able to open it, I was able to export it, but it just didn't play out in terms of material. So long story short, I gave up for a little bit, and then I came back and I started to how did I actually, I think I started watching tutorials, and I was watching so many tutorials, and the more I watched tutorials, the less I understood. And it just took some time to, I think eventually I had this feeling that if I put the energy into it, I should be able to overcome it. And I bought more land. I actually bought the current plot that I have that consists out of 3 parcels. And as you can see here, I mean, it is a little bit, it's not very central, right? It's all the way here on the left. It's still connected to a whole road system, and I think it's still nicely placed, but it's not in the center, like it's not in the areas where people would ideally like to settle. But I didn't mind it. It was directly connected to a to that road network here, and that was good enough for me. I think I paid like 60,000 mana, and it was kind of a big change for me. I did not expect that I would be ready to spend this type of money on a virtual land at that point in time. It was a leap of faith. It was a gut decision, I think. And I started my journey. And today I have significantly developed onto, on this land here. As you can see, it's become quite a building. I've changed it on multiple occasions. I have enhanced it. I have improved it in terms of efficiency. I'm still not done with it. I've added a lot of, added some functionality to it. I've been messing around with materials. I've completely changed the floor layout by introducing, let me show you real quick. By introducing these holes in the floors to make it a little bit more open and a bit more like contemporary. Yeah, so I've come a long way since purchasing that 3 land plot, and at the same time it felt like I needed to do something with the community, because Decentraland, man, I mean, this video might just go out for a couple of hours, but I'm just gonna roll with it, man. I don't know if this is gonna be actually interesting to people and if I can keep the pace. And but let's just go with it and see what happens. So at that point, I decided I wanted to do something for the community. I wanted to build out my Twitter, and I have to tell you, I have not used Twitter like a whole lot before. It was more like a sharing platform, like a spamming sharing platform. I haven't actually used it to engage with people, and I think now inside Decentraland, I realize how powerful and how cool that tool is. Same goes for Discord. I've never actually used Discord before, and now I realize how important that is. And so in order to engage with this community on Discord and Twitter, I need to have something to offer. I just feel like if you don't have anything to offer, it's you don't enjoy the game as much. At least at this, in this stage where we are in, where everybody is kind of building, and it kind of refers to the comment I have in my bio here on Twitter, where I say people think there are games worth waiting for, but the game already started, meaning the game right now is actually building stuff, figuring out what role you want to play, how you can help the community, where you engage, what your brand is, what you stand for, what you are against. Like, I feel now is the time to kind of build that component, that philosophical component of the experience before we move on to a different aspect of it. So I wanted to be the guy who maybe built something, and I realized that building for other people is going to be really tough because everyone has a different taste, everyone has a different vision, everyone has a different understanding of what quality means, and at the same time, I was afraid of the SDK. Now I'm mixing up a lot of different components in my journey, but let's just see where it takes us. I was kind of afraid of the SDK because I tried it. I was able to install, the whole command line app. I was able to publish scenes onto Decentraland. But the thing is to actually write some of the code inside the files, it was really hard. Like, it was really hard because I didn't understand the syntax, how this whole thing works, and just copying and pasting, it wasn't enough for me. And I don't know, eventually I realized that whatever you create in the builder is not compatible with the SDK, which I thought would be a nice shortcut, but then it wasn't properly compatible on the way back. Like, if you change something, then with the SDK, you could not reuse that inside the builder. I think that was the issue. So eventually I decided that, look, man, this SDK thing might work for some people, but this is not for everyone. So I decided not to touch it, and I still wanted to build stuff. So I thought, okay, so let me just worry about the assets. Maybe I can just work on the assets side. So I started working on these 3 buildings that you see in the background. So there is like this version 3, version 2, version 3, and version 1. This round gallery building. And I got some help from a professional designer to put this together because we had to overcome quite a few challenges. I mean, remember, I've never built anything in Blender. I've seen the digital building, which was highly advanced with access keys and different floors and elevators. I've seen other players implementing elevators, and I was like, how do they do this? So I started learning, I got some help, and we figured stuff out. We got the transparency going, the UV editing, we get different textures. We were able to optimize for the triangles limitations. We use the maximum heights for a single parcel. And most importantly, we got all the files properly named. We were able to put them into a nice zip file and attach license agreements to it. And then I just decided to publish it for free for people to download. And I think 80 people or something. I mean, I will have to check the numbers, but quite a good number of people actually downloaded these buildings. And some of them actually put those buildings up onto their land, and they tweeted me, and some of those implementations, have been published on Twitter. So it's actually pretty cool. I think until today, a lot of people are still not fully aware of the fact that they can put up assets onto the lands without programming. They're just not aware of the fact that we have a builder tool, that we can import assets and use those, that we can share those among ourselves. Like, people, I think, are not aware of that. And if they're aware of that, they're only partly aware of that. And then also we don't have any kind of assets available to us other than what Decentraland is providing and other than I'm providing for download. We only have the MetaZone place where you can upload your creations, but I mean, we can talk about this as well. It's just, it just feels like we're mixing up a lot of stuff, and I'm trying to maintain some kind of train of thought. So eventually I built out, with the help of a designer, my 3-piece parcel that is here in the background. We built the free round gallery buildings for free download. That, by the way, you can actually download here on this site if you want to. ecl.digital. You can download these buildings here for free if you like. So we did that, and at some point, and remember, this was in April, May, I think. By now we're in April and May. The whole COVID situation was happening, and I started to get into wearables. I think this is the moment where I came to the marketplace and I realized that we have all of these items and nobody was actually speaking about those. There was a bit of a community on Discord that, was buying up a lot of that supply, but I think they also bought up a lot of the supply once I came in, because I came in and I made a big buy for eyewear. I bought a lot of Bitcoin glasses, a lot of Mana glasses, and I think, I'm not sure, like, it's very hard to go back and analyze that stuff for me now, but it feels like I also created a bit of an impulse back in the days, and that reignited the initial stage when Decentraland opened up doors for the first time. I think in February, I kind of came in there like end of March, April, and suddenly like end of April, May, I made a good buy of stuff that people thought already reached a peak in valuations, and then I came in and just bought it all up. I think this created a bit of an impulse. I was very talkative, maybe somewhat provocative here and there on YouTube and on Twitter, and I think it kind of got also things rolling a little bit. And yeah, I got into wearables, created kind of a bit of a collection of items, and started learning about that stuff, because like with wearables, people were looking at mint numbers and they were making a difference between mint number 2 and mint number 23, although the item was the exact same item. So they really started to build a bit of a kind of a science of how to value wearables. And at some point, the discussion started to tackle the idea of, hey, why don't we have player generated wearables also, and how could that play out? And then we started to go to the Decentraland forum, and I actually contributed quite a lot, tried to kind of drive the conversation there a little bit, and it wasn't that straightforward. I mean, like this whole economic side of things in Decentraland and how it ties back to wearables is somewhat complex, and it's a little bit like quote unquote political. Like people get upset about if you say something they don't agree with, right? And so there are these two different camps, and so we went through this whole process, but eventually Decentraland decided to do like whatever they wanted to do, and that's history. But I think it worked out quite well, and it was a great experiment, and now we have to review how we go forward with this. We have a lot of supply of wearables. Maybe we should review that, but I think I've done a separate video on that topic. Let's get back to my persona, and maybe we should get back inside the building here, so we have a bit of a change in scenery. Yeah, so I mean, this building behind me kind of brings me to another topic. So when I started to build, the platform MetaZone became like quote unquote a little bit popular. I think a lot of people thought this was a way of monetizing their efforts inside Decentraland. And I mean, looking back now, I think the idea of having a marketplace where you can sell your creations is not a bad idea, right? But what I had some troubles with in the beginning was that the builder tool inside the Decentraland platform was so weak and had so little functionality compared to the SDK, taking away any kind of power from the individual users and putting it into the hands of people who were coders. And there were just so few of those guys that were able to use the SDK somehow, that I felt like the focus was not properly set, right? And I was complaining a little bit about it on Twitter, saying, hey, why don't we focus more on the builder? And then some key people decided they needed to, like, one key person decided he needed to unfollow me based on my commentary, which I find funny because I'm trying to help, and maybe it's not the right signal to set, but whatever, man. Like, people perceive things differently, and maybe I was discouraging for some people, but it's okay, man. Like, I can live with that. I have a lot of positive feedback from other community members that are equally important, and I think that makes up for it perfectly fine. So, and then, like, the builder was really weak. The SDK was the focus that nobody knew how to use. And then you had that MetaZone platform where you could publish stuff on, but they would take a huge cut of the sale price. The prices would be relatively high. And the stuff that you would get in there would be mostly like medium quality, and I'm being very generous here. So it was good enough for a starter, like, and you know, it's good to start with like that, but I didn't see the future there. It felt like it didn't make sense to have this centralized platform within a decentralized idea. If there is a platform, it should work without any moderation, I guess, right? It needs to be somewhat like Uniswap, where you have access to it and you can share stuff with other people, or you don't, but you don't actually have like someone, like a human sitting and deciding whether you can or you can't, and who then takes like 30% of the cut, making the price of this thing really high while people are learning how to actually build stuff. So it's just, I didn't fully like this whole concept, because the quality of the builds that we were giving away was significantly higher than most of the other builds that were offered on MetaZone, in my opinion. And we were giving it away for free, and they were charging like a good chunk of money for that, and people were buying it, and I just felt like they didn't have a good experience overall, not necessarily helping. It was good for the short term, it was interesting as an idea, but it wouldn't be like something in that shape and form that it was at that point in time, that I thought would have a long-term prospect. And I think maybe it even did some damage to the Decentraland reputation in terms of new people onboarding and realizing that's the only place that has stuff for sale, and it's not even that properly made, right? So I don't know, it's a strange topic. I think it's a great idea. I think the execution is like really like minimum viable product level. I think the contributors are learning themselves, and I thought the solution would be to educate people on how to build their own stuff and make it easier to do. And if I can do it, I think most guys will be able to do it as well. Now, the thing is, of course, we need to build out the builder tool, and I think we are in the process of doing that. So this is really important to me. I feel like people need to have this liberty of creating their own stuff. That's the whole game for me, is to is to have that liberty without intermediaries. So that's that. Let me see what else we have on the board. Like, I've touched on so many topics. We're like, what, half an hour in? Yeah, let's talk about the role of Decentraland. Like, it's quite a big jump from my story, and I think I missed on many interesting details, but maybe I'll, come back to those at some point. Did I miss on anything very special? Yeah, I mean, I did miss on a few items, but that's okay. So, role of DCL here. Yeah. Well, the thing is, in '96, I found out about the game called Ultima Online by pure chance. A friend of a friend introduced me, and I watched over his shoulder how he played that game. And the game was, you are in a universe, and you run around with your sword, and you are killing monsters. You collect cash. You go into dungeons. You kill more monsters with your friends, and you get special items. And then there is a secondary marketplace. You can build your own house on an empty land if you find one. And so it was very much like Decentraland, just on a very, very basic kind of medieval kind of level. And I used to buy and sell buildings in that game for the next 8 years or so. Not like as a big time gamer, but with occasional bursts of a couple of months where I would just go all in and have a good time. But remember, back in the days, we had to pay internet on a per hour. It was a dial-up internet. We had to pay per hour. It was super slow. You would get killed in game because you had a lag, and it will cost you like $4-5 an hour to be connected. So it was really like a big sacrifice to play that game back in the day. So, but I loved that game so much. I had really some difficulties getting away from it in the long run. It's just that at some point, somebody messed up the economics of the game. Like the central team, I think they sold the game, and then they tried to make it more mainstream, and they made some crucial mistakes with the economics of the game, where some of the most rare skills were diluted in a way that the underlying items and the skills to create those items were widely available and easy to get, and they're flooded by providing all of those difficult to get items onto being freely open for purchase from the actual game designer and not from the players. I mean, it's difficult to express this. It's just like 15 years ago, man, but I remember the smiths had to go and get iron from the mountains, and they could buy horses, and in order for those horses to follow the blacksmiths, they had to get a skill that would allow you to talk to animals, and then they would build up that skill and buy those horses, go to the mountain area, and they will mine for iron and for different metals, and then would get back to their shop or to a common location where they could use the equipment, and they would build rare items, and the rarity of the items would depend on their skills that they had to build over time. And the more they produced, the better they got, and when they became grandmaster, they could build these amazing items that you would really need in difficult fights and so forth. So they messed around with that mechanism, and I think flooded the market with these high quality items, reducing the role of these core professions. And this completely messed up the game, because that particular profession was really time consuming. You had to spend a lot of in-game time to mine and to build, and it was a very profitable and important profession because it would repair stuff and build high quality stuff for the fighters that would come and would ask for repairs and would pay for that, and then they would buy stuff, and they would have their own shops and stores with like only items that they can do, and like all of that, they messed it up. And long story short, when the economics got messed up, you had this strange situation where you have the OG players who own billions of coins, and then you had new players that would come in and that would start with 100 coins. So, long story short here, once again, like if you don't have an economist on your team and you're building a game like that, an experience like that, you have to be very careful not to mess it up, because eventually everybody abandoned this game because new guys just couldn't ever reach the level of the old guys. They were just, it was impossible. Like, and then they started building out additional worlds, try to mitigate for that, additional game experiences and so forth and so forth. I mean, I can tell you about the game all night long, and I think we need to talk about it because we have a lot of parallels from these type of games like World of Warcraft, RuneScape, and specifically Ultima Online. A lot of parallels that will help us give good feedback to the development team to make Decentraland a positive experience. Like some of these fundamental rules will always be the same. In real world, in game, it's the same story. But you have to understand what the levers are, and I hope we do. But we don't talk about it, right? We just print variables for now, which is okay for now. But we need to understand why we're doing it and for how long we can do this and what the impact will be, or at least watch out for it. So I don't know how I went off on that tangent, but basically I think there are a couple of people in Decentraland who have similar gaming experiences, and I think this is to a large degree why we are back. We are back for more as grown-ups, and we missed that part of our life, and we want it back, but we want it back on a level where it makes sense to invest time into it, right? Like today, it's all about making money. If you're a man, you need to make money. If you're a woman, you need to make money. If you want to provide for your family, you need to make money. If you want to provide for yourself, you need to be competitive. You need to be able to make money. And when you do that, that kind of a lot of the time justifies your activity during the day, those 8 hours that you have available to yourself. How do you spend those? So I think places like Decentraland will help justify this cause. Yes, I want to play. I want to be social. I want to be inside a parallel universe. But I also want to be able to make some money and earn and build a reputation and build an asset and build something inside it that lasts. And I think this is the very attractive component of it here. And now we need to set up the rules for this to work, the mechanics that support that and drive this idea forward, right? Like when you have an event, how do you design an event so that it works? I think it's not one element. It's a selection of elements that need to play together. Yesterday we had an event and I went to see what's going on, and you have a similar picture, right? People come and people stand around and they want to be like active. They want to do something. They want to be, but the only thing they can do is just to say hello. And then they kind of type into that chat, hello, hello, this guy, hello, that guy, try to connect with those guys that you know. And then you dance a little bit. And once you're tired of pressing the button 4 and the button 3, you stand around and then you go over to Discord or to Twitter. Your character is frozen in the center of the dance floor. And this kind of affects the people around you. They also stop dancing. Suddenly everything is frozen. And then I would suggest, hey, let's all do this thing. And nobody is kind of doing it. And then somebody says, hey, I'll follow you. And then you do it. And then everybody joins in. And then you join in with another group of people that does, just some foolish stuff. And it becomes fun again for a while. And the music is good. And the artist is great. And so it's just this, like, there are certain things that work and other things that don't work. And we need to feed into those things that do work. And as a community, we also need to like help each other play the game, right? Like, yeah, I understand it's not so much fun to press buttons to dance or try to kind of make up for create dance moves by pressing different buttons at the same time. But it's not only for you, it's for everyone. Like if you make an effort, we're all going to have a good time. And what I liked yesterday was that it was only for 30 minutes. I think it was relatively short. I really found that this is something that works. If we would know that it's very short, and if we would know that in order to have fun, there is certain things that we need to do, a certain sacrifice, a certain ego sacrifice where, yes, maybe we're not going to lead on like what to do, but we follow someone else who suggests and support that person. Like I asked some people to help me retweet about the event, and some people did, and it was so much fun because it feels like we are all part of something. It's alive. But what about all the other people? All the other people that did not participate? Yeah, I mean, I went on a rant there, but these are some of the things that are going through my mind right now. So we are 40 minutes in. I'm probably still gonna talk for another 20 minutes because there is so much material to share on that. And if we do an introductory session like that, we can, do it properly, right? So let's get back a little bit. So at some point, after having erected that building on the 3 parcels that we are on right now, and after perfecting it, changing it, and using the new builder items to integrate stuff into it, learning Blender further, I decided that I still want to do more than just having like a few free buildings for download that we have right now on DCL.digital if you want to get one. Actually, in between, there were a few more models that were available for download. There was also a paid model for download. A few people got it, but before I continue providing premium content, I just want to make sure that they're significantly better than the free stuff. And I think some of those 3 free buildings we have, they're actually pretty good. So they need some updates now, which they will get soon. But if you want to do a premium version, they cannot be equally good. They need to be a lot better. So I'm looking currently into like what can we do to make premium items again. But I went on a rant there again. Let's get back. So yeah, I wanted to do more for the community. And I mean, I'm not this charitable guy who wants to do everything for the community, man. Like, honestly, no. I just want to be part of something, and I want to have a role in that something, right? And I have to see like what are the things that I know how to do, what are the things that I can learn, and what from those things, what can I do that would not only help me, but that would also help everybody and the system that I'm participating in, because that in turn will help me again as well. So I thought, all right, so maybe we can do something on YouTube, right? Maybe we can do something on YouTube. There is a community online that cares about Decentraland, that cares about crypto. Maybe I could do something on YouTube. And I noticed, and that's another sidetrack, but I think it's an interesting one. I noticed that we all are looking for something like that, right? Like this whole NFT space, all these artists, all the crypto guys, all the tech guys, we're all looking for a place where we can realize ourselves, where we can live a side of ourselves that we know exists, but just hasn't yet flourished in the real world. And it needs an outlet somewhere. And I think we all found suddenly like a place where it's actually realistic to try, right? Like we all know about YouTubers who have millions of followers. We all know about bloggers who have become millionaires. We all know of crypto projects where people made fortunes. And I think most of us didn't. We might have had some success, but not like life-changing success. So we're still looking for something that doesn't have to be very big, but something that is fun, that we enjoy doing, and that would kind of help support that narrative of being successful in our own terms, right? And I think we found a place where this could be possible. And now, what could we do to not only dream about this, but actually live it? Like, what could we do? And if you ever wanted to do YouTube, why don't you do it in the context of crypto, or in the context of Decentraland, or in the context of digital art? Why don't you do it? And maybe you do. And some people do, and some people are actually quite bad at it, and they're doing it, and it works because there is very little competition for now. So you have a little bit of time to experiment and try things, and that's what I'm trying to do as well. And we'll see where this goes. Yeah, I mean, I have told you a lot of stuff now, and I hope this was interesting, and I hope this encourages some of you to, maybe tell your story as well. Maybe start a YouTube channel as well. Maybe see what you can offer the community. Some people are starting up land rental projects. Others have very successful YouTube channels. Others, do short videos and updates. Like some people do interviews. Other people, create a platform for assets. Like a lot of stuff is going on, and I think you can also do something small in that space and just see where it takes you over time. And that's what my plan is, really. And one thing, and I think I've mentioned this in the very first episode of my podcast, quote unquote, is that in the decentralized world, you have to go out there and boost and push and shill your ideas to people if you want them to be realized. That's the difference between the regular world and the multiverse, is that in the regular world, there is a system, and there is always someone who will help you drive a narrative. They will have a plan, and you can be part of that plan, and you should be part of that plan. And it's okay like that, because for most people, that's where they feel comfortable, and that's what works for them. And that's fine. I understand it, and I've been in that game for a long time, and I am still in that game, to be honest, right? But in this universe here, anything is possible, and your vote counts. And sometimes there are only 2 votes. And if you don't express your opinion, you really damage the whole community, because when there are only 2 votes and you didn't say what you needed to say, now you have changed the outcome potentially for the negative, by being a coward or by being lazy. So it's important to speak up, to share, to have the courage, and to grow and evolve. Even if you are not that personality in real life yet, you could start becoming that personality in this universe. Yeah. Guys, I think we are at 48 minutes. I could jump into the conversation of NFT art or something like that. But maybe, maybe we just leave a little bit of content ideas for for another session. I just wanted to have an introductory video which kind of explains of where I'm coming from, a few things that have happened, and where I think we're all going. And I mean, we can speak a lot more about these topics. If some of you guys would like to come over here and make a recording with me, I'm available. Like, I had 4 guests who wanted to come in. We've tried it with 2. One interview worked really well. The other one, for technical reasons, didn't work out. There is still potentially 2 more people to come on, but there is plenty of time and space for you guys to come on. If you have been in Decentraland for some time, if you like to talk, if you speak English and you like to talk and you have ideas and you have some experience, like I would love to, sit down with you and talk through some of these concepts. There's so much to discuss, and I think maybe this is something that others might enjoy as well now or maybe in the future. And no matter what happens, you don't lose. It's a growth opportunity. Try something new. So hit me up, contact me on Twitter if you like to be part of this. I would be really happy to see like what's possible and if it makes sense. Don't be shy. And if some of you own land and you would like to get one of my free buildings to just see how that could work, I have videos on the website as well with a tutorial on how to upload the buildings and how to position those buildings on your land. Just go to DCL for Decentraland, dcl.digital, and you will be able to download the buildings there. All right, guys, if you enjoyed this video, that's great. Take it easy, guys. I see you around the metaverse, and have a nice rest of the day.